Hello, beautiful people. I am Oliver Perrin for Semiagog, joined today by Mr. Tim Rudisil from high atop a mountain in eastern Tennessee. And we will be taking questions today and just generally discussing our circumstances as related to this, let us call it a sortition and all that sort of thing. Before I do my shilling and then jump into this discussion, can everybody let me know if the audio and video are coming through as they should? Let me know in the comments. I am scanning them now to know if it is acceptable. Yeah, and while we're waiting to hear that, I guess I will go ahead and do the shilling. Please follow this channel, Semiagog. You can do it on a safer space. I'm sorry. A Safer Space and Semiagog. Follow these two channels. You can do so on BitChute and you can do it on YouTube. There's also Minds, there's Gab, there is Twitter, there is Parler. For those who wish to support the channel, there is GoFundMe and there is Subscribe Star.
Support that channel. Support that channel. Send folding money.
Absolutely. And while we are on the subject of that, allow me to share my screen so that everyone can enjoy the patrons of this channel who make this possible. Fine people, one and all, and believe me, I mean that. Over here, yeah, exactly what Tim said.
Yeah.
There's the screen. Now, hopefully, everyone will be able to see this. Let me
There they are.
Bigger. Right now, there's
the names of all those kind people who sent folding money.
And it looks like there is someone who just recently stepped up to support the channel, a David Robert Satchel, I believe, if I'm remembering the name right. I'm going to be adding that to the list. And there's another person I didn't add that I should, so I'm going to mention them here specifically, Zed Dez. So these are the patrons, as you know, people, all of the credit and none of the blame. And the last thing,
all the cash checks,
all that folding money, boy.
Folding money. Got to have that folding money.
There it is. And my books. Please feel free to buy my science fiction book. It's called Vinculum. You can get it on Amazon under the name Oliver Perrin. It's a dystopian sort of cyberpunk tale set in the year 2076 in Istanbul about a book thief. Please do consider purchasing it to further support the channel. There is also my book of poems, which I don't mind saying are fucking excellent. My genius is completely unrecognized in this respect. These are... This is under the name Oliver Timken Perrin. It's called Cinders from the Bloomery of Youth. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, the first thing I should ask probably, Mr. Tim, is how the hell are you?
Not worth a fuck, Ollie. How about yourself?
Well, I would say that I'm probably in that situation myself.
There you are.
What's a girl to do, right?
Well, yeah.
So fine. You're about like you are usually.
That's it. I'm just about the same.
Well, I'm happy that you can be here with us today. Thank you very much for your time. I think
not as happy as I am.
I'll take it where I can get it. I think that we have an audience that is probably very, very interested in hearing your thoughts on what the hell is going on. Our thoughts, speculations, sheer speculation, and reflections on our current national circumstances. There seem to be any number of people who have been gnawing on the black pill and seem to be, how shall I put this? They seem to think that it's all over and that that Biden has won. and there are the only person out there, I'd seen him in the past. And I had some sort of exchange with him. I think Waterpenny told me about some alternative platform a couple of years back that was being promoted. And I went over and checked it out. And they turned out to be like speech police and kind of bitchy. And I think I had one quick nasty exchange with Thomas Victor, and he didn't impress me at all. But then shortly after the elections happened, I saw he was making some observations about it, his view on what was happening and how it's all going. And it seemed quite sensible. And I've since looked at some of his channel content yesterday. Basically, I went and watched like his last 4 or 5 videos. I think he's on it. And
Well,
so
good.
with a few exceptions like him, most people seem to think that that Biden has won and it's all over. They're paying attention to this, what is it, General Services Administration or whatever it is,
Oh
this
yeah.
transition woman, and and this means that it's all over. That Trump has this tiny narrowing window, and it's
Oh,
all going to hinge upon signature matching and all the rest.
right.
And I tend to think that Trump has something up his sleeve. And
Really?
so,
Aside from his arm.
yeah, aside from his rather small hands. So perhaps we can talk about that a bit. What do you think confronts us here in the future? I mean, we'll see how this discussion goes. We can, throw down our thoughts on the most recent things we've seen, and then, maybe start taking questions. We'll just see how it goes. And hello to everyone in the chat who is saying hello. I'm busy trying to be an interesting host, so and potentially failing here.
It's full-time job for him. It's full-time job.
Yeah, I noticed we've got some mods in the house. I see Fiend J. Glad to see you here, sir, and thank you for being willing to moderate. All kinds of people here whose names I recognize, who haven't yet. I see the end is here, as a matter of fact. Adherent of Lady Columbia, guy from V, Faith Alexandria Oglesby, Bill McGinnis, all sorts of people here. Joanna Noel. So yeah, John Bowler. Hello, one and all.
Hello.
What's your El Vaquero 555, who sent me a hunting pic recently, and I did see it. He blew the lungs out of an oryx with a long shot, apparently. Yes. So, Mr. Tim, what's your quick take, your summary introduction of where you think we stand at this moment?
Well, I think we're still doing the same thing we were doing last week. We're waiting on Trump and his time frame. Now, I understand that a lot of people have a lot of difficulty. They're like the news moderators. They think they're real important. And they think that what has to happen is they have to be shown the evidence and the proofs now. They don't seem to realize that evidence and proofs wait on the court. And each segment of the system has to be handled in itself as its own argument. These are the same people who talk about how, for instance, it was obvious to them, in their great abilities and their deep understanding of everything, that why you just couldn't have black people kept from voting. They didn't realize all the laws that had been erected, all the arguments that had been made beforehand had to be attacked, taken down, one by one by one. They didn't realize that the first thing that had to be decided was whether or not black folks were human. It helps all if you don't mute it out when you're. That's good.
It's one of those days.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's all right.
Just help me for the context, how we jump from our current circumstances to you had to figure out black people were human relative to voting rights.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I missed the jump.
Well, it wasn't really a jump. It was sort of a step.
Well, I missed that
step.
too.
Yeah, I noticed you did.
Right.
The arguments, the legal arguments. Legal arguments must be made concisely, and they must be so that they deal with one issue. That's the nature of the court.
I get you. So you were just backing up to illustrate that, For example, you've got a long chain of sequences based on, the Emancipation Proclamation, and then what is it, 25th Amendment? I can't remember.
No. Before that, that was how they got into all the side arguments. What's the basic argument?
Natural rights.
Duh.
All right. Well, you asked me to go upstream. Anyway, the point is that you were illustrating that the law takes a view of things that is much more particular.
How
and
did
precise.
women get the vote?
By being obnoxious and marching, browbeating their husbands.
How did women get the vote, Ollie?
A bunch of men decided that it was time for them to have it.
A bunch of men decided that women were human too. But you see, the basic argument was that women were different than men. Happy little creatures.
Frisky even.
Yeah, the right ones. And them other ugly old cows, you just make school teachers out of them.
Go on. Yes.
You've got to go back to the first principles, Oliver. All men are men, whether they are women or men or whatever gender they may be, whatever color they may be.
And so you're about to connect this to our current circumstances and the legal cases that we're looking at?
Yeah. What are the legal issues that are raised?
At this point, there are several. Equal protection under the law being one of them.
Equal protection under the law. Now, how is that raised, Ollie? That sounds awesome and just grand, and I'm ready to get my horse pistols out and put them on the saddle and go to town on it. Equal protection under the law. How do we get to equal protection with it?
For example, we have the business in different states of, Democrat counties providing all sorts of opportunities for people to cure ballots or to send ballots in earlier or later than would be allowed in other places. And then there's the argument about due process. So you've got the business of
due process. How does due process come into this?
This comes into it in the sense that we have a certain process established for how laws get made by the legislature in the various states, and the executive branch stepped around them through, fiat based on COOF.
Oh.
So there are two examples. I'm sure there are more, but I'm playing the straight guy here.
Detail? Can you go into detail on that and tell me why and how?
Only to the extent that I've seen some of these themes mentioned in press conferences by the attorneys.
You ain't done no thinking on it then.
Okay. I'll take that. This is, man, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be one of the Ollie abuse days. I can feel it. There's a long stick next to him there that he can even reach through cyberspace with to swat me with. Go on, Tim. Sorry.
Each of the 50 states has its own way of doing things. That's what makes the argument difficult. If you take the argument itself, basically it boils down to one thing. That in the Constitution, it says that the state legislators set the standard. Now, this suddenly breaks out into 50 different ways of doing things. There must be 50 ways to leave to get your stuff in line here. So you've got 50 different arguments.
Except that they are all backed or premised upon the foundation of the Constitution itself. And as you pointed out in the past, the states can grant or recognize.
You have to decide how.
Right. Well, all I was going to say is they can recognize more rights or privileges, but not fewer. And so we come down to the baseline, which is where the Supreme Court play is going to apply to this to some extent.
I see. Well, then, we've got some pretty stout little stuff to work with, haven't we?
It would seem so, yes. That's of course just one of the angles attack on the of attack on this whole mess.
One? You mean there are more ways to attack this?
Yeah, I mean, there's the Supreme Court, as I understand it. I see 4. You tell me if you see more, but I see 4, and many of them might well be able to be rolled up as 1. But for conversational purposes, I recognize the legal arguments. They're going to work their way from district courts to circuit courts, through the appellate process or appeals process, I should say, up to the Supreme Court. So there's the legal battles, right? And we've got the aspect you just talked about, which is the individual states, and then the backing of the Constitution and the Supreme Court itself. Then we have the state legislatures, and how all that gets dealt with.
I like the way you said that, how all that gets dealt with. Go ahead.
Well, meaning that the state legislatures have the constitutional power, as it has been explained to me, insofar as I follow it, to seat the electors or whatever, choose them and send them, right?
Oh, you want to go to the electoral process. All right, go ahead.
That's the state legislatures there. Also, the state legislatures, the shit can be knocked back by the Supreme Court, but something can, for example, not be put in its place, and the legislatures can be fucking instructed to take action on a matter. So they can't dodge it, right? Then there's the business of going up to the federal legislature, in the sense that you have delegations from each of the states. So it's not a vote based on the number of representatives, but based on the number of delegations. And that's a way that it could be handled. And then the fourth is, I call it a wild card, which could range, for example, from legal action being taken by a bar, right? Or you could take a look at
bar and grill. Hereby wishes to be heard. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Barr might be getting ready to grill a number of these motherfuckers.
Sure, he might.
And then there's the under the wild card, you have that aspect, which is if law enforcement comes out of the woodwork with something that's dramatic. I tend to think that the types of actions that Barr will take are things that will happen after the election aspects are resolved. Just the nature of how he wants to do things, how he wants to be above reproach, how he wants to restore faith in the justice system. I tend to think that the straight Department of Justice plays are going to come after the election aspects are covered. And so under that fourth item here, I think there is also the possibility of something happening with the military. That is something that Thomas Victor pointed out. As he illustrated, you've got a situation where it seems voting data was sent to a centralized location. As he observed, you've got a situation there where it's the downfall of all the great social engineers. They want centralized power. And so if you've got a centralized place to which all of the voting information has been sent, and again, this is ripping on the Thomas Victor approach, but it seems perfectly reasonable to me. You're going to be sending things to places, as we've heard, perhaps speculation, like Spain and Germany, and it isn't even necessary to seize servers, though it does seem at this point servers have been seized. If we can trust what we've been told, and maybe we can. The fact is, though, that you don't need to have seized them. The data in transmission can be captured. And for the algorithms, again, if we can accept what we've been told, all of this is speculation. The whole Dominion system, speculation. Yes, she'll be coming round the mountain when she comes.
Yeah.
Sending the information to a central place, the Dominion system has to have something like that in order to be able to see how the voting is going and to anticipate what sorts of changes need to be made in order to fix it, right? Which means they're going to have to be getting a clear view of what's occurring, which means you've got a feed running to them with the actual election results. And then what you have is them changing it based on algorithm, or as Sidney Powell argues, coming in after the fact and backfilling it with the usual ballot stuffing arrangements. as Thomas Victor pointed out, since that's going overseas, he doesn't have to worry about any of the typical, at least pro forma restrictions.
NSA, oh my NSA.
Yes, and any number of smaller, more compartmentalized, less well-known agencies, if that becomes necessary, right? So since it's going overseas, that's some foreign shit, and he doesn't have to worry about using these people. He can do it all day long, and can seize that data coming and going. And I mean, I've even seen some guys who are just, computer mentats who got pissed off because they heard about fraud schemes that are being run out of India. And so they just got on and they hacked into the network and looked at the cameras, through the cameras, the surveillance cameras, and the individual computer cameras in the workrooms where these Indian guys are running their scams. So if a private dude can hack in and capture footage with all those cameras, what the hell can some of these three-letter agencies, great and small, do? So anyway, as I said, we've got the legal battle course. We've got the state legislatures, we've got the federal legislature, and we got the wild cards that deal with law enforcement or national security type issues.
And each of these has to come before a court.
I don't think so. Not in the case of national security.
To get the backing of one of our three branches of government to do something, there must be somebody who comes forward and says, "You did what?" And we're going to now do thus and so about your having done what?
Right, but in the case of the executive branch dealing with something overseas, a military unit can be tasked and assigned to gaining that information. And then at the point, for example, when the shit gets put to the state legislatures and the rest, and the rhinos are fixing to roll over and piss all over their own bellies, like, don't call me racist, I'll give you the whole country. Just whatever you do, don't call me racist, for example. Right at that moment when public pressure needs to be brought to bear on these state legislatures that might otherwise swing one way or another with a little bit of lucre in their pocket or a whip being cracked or a carrot being dangled, suddenly you have a massive sort of public relations event where, as Thomas Victor put it, you have somebody show up with, fruit salad all over him and, gold braid. And he says, here on our video screens, you can see how this, that, and the other things were done. That, for example, would not require the intervention of a judge coming from the executive branch.
The intervention of a judge
to be presented to the public. Now, the legal system would have to step in afterwards, or the legislative.
Well, it'd be up to one or the other. I would myself seek a statement by the court, followed up by legislative action. But then I'm just that way. I always did like to carry two guns.
Right. Yeah, two is one and one is none. And you went to law school for some time, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And when you went dealt with all the stuff where you were convicted and all the rest, and were jailhouse lawyer, and you you learned some further bit about, all these.
I was able to help all kinds of people except myself. Yeah.
All these poignant reflections upon conspiracy statutes and the rest came from that period of your life, right?
Yeah, they sure did. There's plenty of conspiracy law.
Yeah, I've been looking at that closely.
Whew. Oh, it's just something to see.
Whew.
They've got the conspiracy law. It's the fair-haired child of the modern prosecutor's nursery, to steal a quote from a judge.
So, yeah, we're in a situation where we have these various tracks going forward. How do you think that all of this is likely to go? It seems to me that it's impossible to tell because Trump has got some little surprises. But I did notice that Lynn Wood had put something out in the last day or so where he was like, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It's going to be a wonderful Thanksgiving, I hope. But let's all hope and pray that by the time Christmas comes around, the country will be in a better situation.
Jingle, whoopee,
and
jingle, whoopee, jingle, whoopee, all the way.
I was thinking more, he's making a list and checking it twice.
Oh, yeah, he's checking it twice.
Because, we had talked some time back, and I had speculated that it was likely that when the country is all gathered together around the crackling fire and the wreaths have been hanged. And speaking of hangings, and the mistletoe has been hanged, the country might be treated. Right, the mistletoe is hung. Correct. Right. Yes. Traitors are hanged. Sorry.
That's correct. Yes.
Right. Right about that time, it might be that the country all gets to come together for a little bit of this ongoing 5 years now of Trump's beautiful control of reality TV.
Well, sounds good to me.
So, given all these things, what do you think is where are we? What comes next?
Well, we got to wait a little while for Trump to get his pieces together, because he's having to deal with the bovine instincts of the majority of the country. He doesn't want them flying off the nut, grabbing their guns and going, let's kill a bunch of them, Bubba.
A stampede, right?
Yeah. But he does want them to be more than just moo, chomp, chomp,
chew and cud, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a hard line to walk because, man, I'll tell you, I'm out in the worst of it with the Twitter sphere, such as it is. But boy,
you should take up Trump's understanding in that matter. He plays a lot of golf.
Right. I'm exercising. I'm going to be polishing my silver.
Oh, polishing your silver. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to be polishing something else. I wasn't sure.
All right now. So
tubing.
We had to have a tubing remark. It's time for a tubing remark. Okay, so yeah, what do you see coming, man?
You mean in the long run?
No.
Long run? No. Oh.
No, short, medium, and long. I'm also I'm on the edge of my seat here. This is reality TV. Trump has successfully turned this into something that everybody's eyes are glued to the screen on.
Yeah, they are, and he's tweaking them. He's getting them up a little bit at a time. They threw out excuse me. I had some pizza earlier and some crazy bread.
Whatever the fuck crazy bread is. Yeah, go on.
Well, I don't be down on it. It's good stuff. They threw out some stuff about Sydney, and that's good. She needed some stuff thrown out about her. They whooped everybody together, and then they pulled them apart, and then they put them together, and they pulled them apart again. Trump is playing the
soap opera shit. It's Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, sure.
And he's done it, I believe, or somebody's done it. With this Tucker Carlson business with everybody. Oh my God, did Tucker Carlson betray Sidney Powell? Oh my God, like it's a nothing.
Did Tucker Carlson betray our dear Sydney?
Right, and it's
our dear Sydney get into a piss contest with our dear Mayor Rudy? Come on, man, give me a fucking break.
It's all like in episode 67, will Linda marry Barry?
Sure. I'm all for it. They're dragging out all these old whores that married and are dating Trump's boys, CNN people and whatnot. I could give a fuck less. Hey,
I'm telling you, I have no interest in any of this.
At all, period. But that's what the American people want. Oh, did Sydney say anything? Did Rudy, What did the girl in charge of the RNC's legal things say about it all? Oh my God. Palpate. Give me a fucking break, man.
But if you want to flank somebody, throwing a bunch of smoke out there first is one way to do it.
Well, yes, it is. And I understand he's doing that. So I'm sitting back and I'm just, doing my little tuberous, I'm not worried about it.
Tuberous were you going to Tubinland here?
Sure, Tubinland. Why not?
All right, that's kind of frightening me. People were asking in the chat, actually. They said they hope you're wearing pants.
I am.
All right. I'm glad you don't need to show. I'm glad to know it. As long as you're not thinking about me while holding up a picture of me in one hand, I think we're fine.
Boy, now that's pretty scary, Ollie. So So at any rate, in the medium range, I expect to see these things start to come together. And I expect to see the people get more in line with going to court and less in line with presenting the evidence. They're going to want the arguments presented. The arguments are going to sink the fucking ship because they're all below waterline. They're back down there where they gotta do it right.
All right, this direct hit on the fucking magazine with an explosive shell. Yeah, you're going to see a flaming ship.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
But so what I'm hearing from you is you think that it's at least possible that just the process of the sort of Giuliani and or Powell and or Lynn Wood, those things in and of themselves will be sufficient to overcome the inertia, the payoffs, and all the rest. I mean, the way in which we're seeing boards of commissioners or whomever the fuck it is on a depending on if it's county or state or however that works, but the way in which they're rolling over and taking it and certifying. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people have argued, yeah, let's go ahead and certify the results because at that point we got them. It's kind of like the drug deal when you pass the money over. Mm-hmm. That might be an aspect, but I mean, when I think about the legislatures and I see the kind of, you take a look, for example, the Newsmax channel is coming up and, sort of coming into its own now with a following as people, Fox News sheds viewers like rats leaving the sinking ship that it is. That's probably not the most felicitous metaphor. Anyway, you can see, for example, the types of state representatives and national representatives and senators, congressmen, whatever, who are stepping up to the plate and saying something about this. And the vast majority of them are equivocating. There aren't all that many of them that are being public about it. So it remains to be seen whether or not the state legislatures actually are going to step up.
They haven't really thought of it, Ollie. They're going one direction, then another, then another, then another. They're playing politician. I'm going to tell you, it's total bullshit.
But the question being how you think they're likely to go. I think they're going to require some kind of stick in order to ensure that they know that the public is watching, that will focus the public attention even more thoroughly, maybe give them a little bit of court TV. Court TV is another type of reality TV. And Trump has shown he knows how to play that game too. Sure. I just tend to think that in order to ensure that the legislatures are going to play ball, there's going to need to be some dramatic thing that is witnessed by the country. And yes, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that the presentation of evidence by figures like Powell and Giuliani will in and of itself be sufficient to cause that come to Jesus moment for the nation?
The come to Jesus moment of that nature will not transpire until they've got this stuff before the court. They don't want the issues obscured by 47 little news freakers.
So by the court, presumably, you mean up at the Supreme Court level?
Well, it's going to be whatever level they wish to first present the totality of the argument. And there are a number of arguments they can present the totality of. They've got to get the question whittled down in its most succinct form.
Hence your earlier point that you opened up with about how the law, came to arrive at this point, what the key issues are, the first principles, and the constitutional dimensions of the question.
Ah, yes. All those sad, tired, old, fusty, dusty things.
Well, now we got somebody in the chat saying SCOTUS won't hear it.
How does he know SCOTUS won't hear it? We don't know what the question is yet.
We also have the situation where these judges have been appointed for the Supreme Court justices have been appointed to oversee various circuits. And I wasn't even aware of how that happens. I went and dug a bit, and it looks like the Chief Justice is in charge of determining who gets set forth for the various circuits.
Yes.
And I noticed that for the ones that matter, Arizona, not so much. But in terms of Michigan and Wisconsin and Georgia and Pennsylvania, you've got, as I recall, Alito, Thomas, and Coney Barrett on those. So it seems rather strange that the Chief Justice stepped up and decided. I mean, they would have to make the assignments anyway, so maybe it's not all that strange because he lost a justice and a new one came on.
Yeah.
But it is, in fact, the right-wing people who oversee those various circuits. And as best I could tell, their oversight of their circuits is specifically as regards emergencies that require things being brought to the Supreme Court at the last minute.
Goodness.
And Alito, who oversees the circuit with Pennsylvania, has already weighed in on this in that capacity before being confirmed yet again for that circuit as the person overseeing it. So to my eyes, granting, of course, what you said, which is we have to see how the question is framed because that's everything.
Yes, it is.
But I don't see, certainly in the case of Pennsylvania, I mean, even somebody like Alan Dershowitz is saying, yeah, they probably got something coming with the Supreme Court as regards Pennsylvania. And Alito's already talked about it.
Alan Dershowitz, my goodness.
Right. So, I'm not sure I buy this idea that it won't go before the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court won't take it.
The Supreme Court. Supreme Court doesn't have to like it, but it does have to take it. It is an issue of constitutional importance. Therefore, they must take it. There is no way out of it for them. And believe me, they wish there were.
Yeah, because they're going to have to actually be somebody at this point.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And that's why.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's why I think it is so important, because looking at them, they're supposed to be our best and brightest. But to be honest with you, I'm not expecting, a Kavanaugh or honestly, the one I like the most at this point is Thomas. But I'm not expecting a Kavanaugh or a Gorsuch or even a Coney Barrett to come charging in on a white horse and say, I will see no injustice perpetrated before me, And likewise, as I pointed out with the legislatures. And so that's why I feel like another piece of this would have to be some major, wow, did you know, kind of reveal coming from the executive branch and probably having been gathered through means and methods that are available to Trump as the commander-in-chief.
Did you ever wonder why there are so many people with various little offshoot Trump-type organizations getting so much of this stuff together?
You mean all the different
really have no involvement with Trump?
You talking, for example, about a guy that I saw just yesterday, I believe, on the Steve Bannon War Room, who is the former Attorney General of Kansas, who is engaging in this whole investigation on his own and gathering all kinds of information, who just happened to let slip yesterday that he can confirm that a number of these voting machines are in the hands of law enforcement and that it pertains to investigation.
Yeah, like that. There's a whole bunch of that going on. That's why these Democrats want Trump to concede. Because he hasn't. And he's given them some, what do you call it? Some rope and some string. And they're tying themselves up with it. Asking him to put a finger right here on the knot while they tie it off.
Right.
Yeah, it's good. I'm in favor of it. And Trump, of course, going, sure, I'll help you.
Right. GSA will release them to facilitate the transition. As a lot of people have observed.
Facilitate everything.
There's a great little meme going around. Somebody sent a tweet out with it, and it's one of these little rascals characters, sitting there clearly whiling away the time in a 1920s or 30s classroom. Mm-hmm. And it's just a loop. It's a little GIF, and it says, waiting for Kamala Harris to step down from her Senate position.
Sure.
The point being, you can be sure that nobody thinks anything's in the bag as long as Kamala Harris hasn't resigned from the Senate. So as long as she hadn't, you can be sure they are well aware of the fact that they're fucking treading water.
You suppose.
Thing is whether or not there's a Leviathan coming up underneath them.
Oh, doom, 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 doom.
I want to see it.
Okay. Well, you go ahead. I'm just going to see.
Well, I'm asking you where the hell you think they're going to put it. You seem to favor your dog in this race is that the courts are going to be central to it, and it would seem they'd have to be.
To one segment of it.
And the other segment that I think has to be there is some major public relations event that can be pulled out of nowhere. And that's why I referred to it as the wild card aspect out of the four we were talking about earlier. And I don't see it coming from the DOJ. At this point, I think the DOJ stuff's going to have to happen after the election shit is sorted.
It is.
And so that's why I kind of like the Thomas Victor idea of something having to do with the fact that he can operate outside U.S. territory with the powers of the executive and military intelligence and all the rest. What do you make of that?
Well, it's good. It's good. I just don't see that it's going to be. You see, the thing is that what he does with that is subject to all the Biden Democratic Party bullshit.
And so they can turn around and say, look, he's a dictator. He's trying to do a coup and use the military to seize control of the government.
Absolutely. Whereas if the courts are there and he is bowing his little head in acknowledgement of the court, while the court waves the magic wand over it all, and the Democrats are in the back going, we've got to pack that court. We've got to set up all kind of rotations. And
you think that by itself will be enough?
Not by itself, no.
And see, that's the part that gets me. And so I wonder, there are a couple other ways I've tried to game it out in my mind. So another one is, I was talking to a friend of mine who you're familiar with, who has a background in the law. And I was asking about what sort of evidence, could national security people come and talk to the Supreme Court before a case comes? And he's like, certainly not officially, because that's ex parte, right? And basically it's all got to happen within the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
And so one way that they, that's a type of pressure that I don't think can be brought directly to bear upon the Supreme Court. Although the Supreme Court people are citizens just like any other, right? Who are doubtless glued to the screen for Fox News themselves, right? However unlikely, of course, that is, they are subject to seeing what the rest of the country does normally. Another angle that occurred to me is that I think legislatures, or I should say legislators, in the various states, as well as the ones for the nation, they can receive closed-door intelligence briefings about what's actually happening, can't they?
Actually, the Supreme Court can receive closed-door intelligence briefings on anything it needs to receive closed-door intelligence briefings on. That's not considered ex parte.
So in either case, then he could present evidence that he got through the military to them without having to do it publicly.
He doesn't have to present it. The military presents it.
Well, I mean, I take your point, but it's executive.
Not the executive. It's where a group of concerned heads of national security feel the Supreme Court must receive a briefing. A briefing.
And that can happen outside the courtroom, so it's not public.
Oh, yeah. It'll happen inside the courtroom. It will happen in closed door session. No, it won't be in chambers. Chambers connotes one justice. This won't be. This will be all the justices, except those who are deemed to be a threat. Ooh. The justices who might be part of the briefing. Ooh. You see, the thing is that no matter how you look at this, there are ways to get around it. Always have been, always will be. Because no matter how you slice this puppy up, the end result is always going to be that somebody's ox is going to get gored. Somebody's well-laid plan is going to be snatched the rug out from under, snatched the covers off of, and is going to be very much, if not in the public limelight, then in the limelight of the knowledge of these judges and a judicial system. There is no way to keep this pristine, to keep this clear, to keep this pellucid stream of legal thought. This is going to get real mucky because the Democrats have decided to make it mucky.
Yeah, it has already. I mean, clearly.
Not like it's gonna, Ollie. You see, the thing is that there's going to be Miss Hillary and Mr. Obama, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama, who has been talking in Canada. You know, he's got another book out, his third one, his third biography.
Yeah, he likes to talk about himself, apparently. Now, I'm still listening. I'm just going to stop my cam to blow my snout. So please go on.
Well, all right. The thing is that he's got all of this nonsense in there. Barack Obama has gone to Canada to make sure that he doesn't look like he's doing anything behind Trump's back. He's got to be, so to speak, like Caesar's wife in the United States. But in Canada, he can do what he likes. And if you watched his interviews in Canada, why, he gets down and dirty. But he's having to earn that money that, what is it, not Netflix? Yes, Netflix. Netflix
yeah.
has paid him, yeah. He's got to earn that money that Netflix has paid him. So he's churning it out. It's fine, man. But there's going to be more than enough Hillary and Obama and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden to sink this whole fucking ship. I mean, just looking at it calmly, rationally, Hunter Biden alone should have sunk the ship.
Right. And Joe Biden's stuff previously and all the things that we have remarked upon over the past 3-4 years. I mean, shit, it was, I think, late 2016, the very end of 2016 and the early months of 2017, you were talking about all kinds of Trump traps and how he was. Now, of course, we hadn't gone so far as election games or the rest because at the time only part of the picture was visible. But the clear theme, and this again, as always, is prior to Q, was that Trump was smart. Trump was drawing them in. And I mean, to be honest with you, this whole run that hopefully we're going to get to see some sort of climactic coming together of, seems to me to be something we can describe with the metaphor of Hannibal's double enveloping. For double enveloping to work, it has to seem as though the center is being crushed and is retreating and is withdrawing and collapsing in front, because that's the natural movement that draws them in, like your thing about an ambush, or like when we were talking before with the business of, it's not Audie Murphy, it's the other one.
Sergeant York.
Sergeant York, right? You start shooting the turkeys at the back, right? So all of this seems to be the appearance of weakness. That's why I'm just constantly hearing from everybody. I probably see it in the chats if I were to scroll back through them. I certainly see it over at Twitter. You know, Trump does nothing. He can't do anything. He's powerless. He has no abilities. He's just shown he's weak. He can't even control his own agencies.
Yeah.
Can you say maybe a couple of words about how much power the president of the United States actually has in office?
Whoa.
Is there any person more powerful in the world?
No. You gotta remember, old son, this boy's got a finger on the nuclear button. He can bring the whole thing up in toast in a minute, and nobody can stop him. Powerful? Oh yeah, this motherfucker's powerful. What they don't realize is they're wanting to put is today Sunday? If today's Sunday, this must be Connecticut.
Right. That dude. Yeah, and Harris.
Biden in there. And Harris, yeah.
What a fucking piece of work.
Oh man, woo. And neither one of them's got the balls to come out and do anything. They're standing back letting what's his name? Podolsky, whatever his name is, head of the Democratic Party.
What's his name? Tom Perez?
Yeah, Perez. They're letting Perez in charge of all this, which is to say they're letting Soros be in charge of it.
Well, we're certainly hearing a whole lot more about him, man. Just to be honest with you, seeing Sidney Powell come out and talk about commies and George Soros, I was like, all right. And then Lynn Wood just come out and fucking say it. Mm-hmm. You know, these are people who've been put into place over time. And I've been looking at quite a bit of the old material from Powell. One of the most ridiculous things I'm hearing is, you know, just because of this business with the so-called statement distancing them, which is just fucking utter shot junk. It's a noise. It's not signal, right? Mm-hmm. Except that the choice to, you know, squirt out squid ink noise like that at this time is in and of itself a signal. But anyway, mm-hmm. Going back and looking at Powell, she comes from North Carolina. And she has quite a career behind her as I think starting out as an assistant U.S. attorney, but, you know, for real. And she's been talking for quite some, I mean, Jesus Christ, can you imagine a formal, someone who's formally playing on the government side of things coming out and arguing for reform in prisons and talking about how horribly corrupt it is? Mm-hmm. I mean, she seems to be the real thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, she's a fool. She's bad optics. She's making everybody look bad." I even had somebody in Twitter saying to me stuff like, "You know, they were about to be able to do the audit in Georgia if Sidney Powell hadn't showed up and screwed everything up. You know, just that nonsense. You got to go with people who are more reliable." And I'm thinking to myself, "Yeah, right. If we were just polite and nice and didn't talk loony, they'd be like, come in, yes, please uncover our fraud. Yeah, it's her fault. It's ridiculous." So we've got some players in the form of Wood and Powell and Giuliani who are carrying it forward and seem to have their shit together and seem to have been picked out quite some time back to do this.
Really?
But even they aren't, you know, read into the whole picture.
Wow, it's caused the picture so fucking big.
Yeah, it's fixing to go international. The Sidney Powell talking about how these machines are used in all these other countries. And I'll tell you one who's likely going to, as you say, catch it in the neck, fucking Boris Johnson. Even Boris Johnson is probably beginning to sense, maybe, how badly he's fucked up. Mm-hmm. Like, he's fixing to have a whole country that hates him. Mm-hmm. Not just one side, because the Tories, the quote-unquote Tory side, is fucking spitting nails about him, and the other side hates him anyway, always and forevermore. You know, before he even does anything, that dude. And I've noticed that I'm not hearing a lot about Merkel, but I'm seeing these huge rallies in Berlin of Germans who are like, "Fuck you, you know, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining." Oh, and strangely, the only one who seems to be angling to survive, I'm not calling yet whether he'll be able to, but Macron seems to notice a little bit what's going on.
Well, that's because he's got so much Muslim problems in his country.
Maybe. I think just somebody showed up and said, you know, he's a paid bitch. So speculation, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I think someone just showed up and said, look, you're a paid bitch. We'll pay you at least what the rest of them are paying you. And in our case, you'll survive. And
Uh-huh.
he's all like, well, weather vane,
Mm.
windsock. I think it's going this way. Yeah. But the rest of them, like, it's strange. There's just a mad brittleness that seems to have
Sure.
overtaken everything, and it's like that weird crystalline cold, where there's no humidity in the air. That
Hmm.
moment right
Hmm.
before the giant glass ornament gets tapped gently with a ball peen hammer.
Hmm.
The whole thing's just waiting there to fucking shatter.
Uh-huh. Well, your boy Boris Johnson gave $1 billion and more to the EU here recently on the
I haven't
sly.
As you know, I
Mhm.
haven't followed all of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. They came to him for more money. They wanted more money, so they could pay all their bills.
They're fucked, man. They are so
Oh
fucked.
yeah, they're fucked. Well, Boris Johnson gave it to him, and what's his name? Nigel Farage is going.
Oh, he's fixing to pull out that whatever rare model of Aston Martin. The engine's already warmed up. He's fixing to ride to town.
He is.
That's why I say
He
two
is.
things that are likely to be going after as soon as this U.S. shit is sorted is the Vatican and the U.K. I think we're going to see pretty quick action on that.
Well, the Vatican is an odd thing. It's got an awful, awful lot of history behind it. I got a feeling the Pope may have some health difficulties and need to retire.
There we go. It'll be quiet. It'll be calmly handled.
Mm-hmm.
Just had about enough of him washing Somali warlord feet or Sudanese or whatever the hell. Well, I don't even want to know. But yeah, I think the UK. Let's leave the Vatican aside since I don't know that much about it. But I sense that there are changes that will be coming there shortly.
The Curie is what you need to pay attention to with the Vatican.
Right, the College of the Cardinals that
Mm-hmm.
fucking makes the choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know enough about them, and I mean, we'll see. But UK, I think there's going to be some. It's going to be some hell to pay over there.
Oh yeah, there's going to be hell to pay over there. There's going to be an awful lot of having to separate the people from the bureaucracy. If they're not real careful, there's going to be a lot of blood involved in it.
In
Kind of like
Minecraft, yeah,
well, definitely
player versus player.
player versus player. There's going to be an awful lot of spillover of this same thing. You'll pardon the pun with spillover. In Australia.
Yeah, it puts me in mind of that scene where the elevator opens up and the blood comes pouring out when you say spillover, in The Shining. Yeah, the
Oh yeah.
Australians are getting pissed. I mean, they're just so outrageous. That's the thing, is that this is the moment I've talked about, like Charybdis and Scylla, of hope and desperation. And
Mm-hmm.
the other side, let's call them the bad guy, the baddies, are driven at this point by hope that they might be able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, but at the same time, it's desperation because they're about to be screwed.
Oh yeah.
And it has led to them taking the most outrageous, overblown, over the top actions about all of this,
Mm-hmm.
to such an extent that everybody's getting to see it. I think we were talking about it before we went live, the way in which Thanksgiving has become this meditation for everyone. They're all going to get to say that, look, the people who deal turkeys are fucked. The restaurateurs are fucked because they've been shut down. My mother was saying, why don't you come over for Thanksgiving, honey? And I said, sure. Okay. She's like, I could give you a hug. I have a hug suit. And I don't even know what the fuck it is. It's going to be some, I don't know what it is, some inflatable fucking Mylar bag with like a mop suit for the military. I don't even want to know what it is. Like, I don't even want to go there and see it. I don't even want to be forced to witness that she believes it. I mean, and meanwhile, like, I went and visited a friend of mine in DC when I went to the Million MAGA March, and I'm like sitting there with him. It's the first time I'd gone to a restaurant at some diner, and he's got this black fucking face mask on that's all dirty, the way some black cloth mask that you carry around in your pocket just gets nasty. And I'm just looking at it as a health code violation. Like all these masks that everybody's forced to fucking cough filth up into and handle and wear over and over again, all the nonsense of it, all the bullshit. There's a whole country full of people, or to your point, many countries full of people who are beginning to say to themselves, I'm thinking not just no, but fuck no. And they're it's the up to here. That it's
They're
coming.
having big demonstrations in Berlin.
Yep, and Australia, I've seen a few, and I'm also seeing crazy shit with people just being arrested out of nowhere. The cops are starting to behave like, this does not. This all plays into the hands of Trump and his backers internationally because it's not just an American program.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. It's fixing to get exciting. I think I told you that I was looking at the Steve Bannon's War Room, and they had some sort of country-ish lady, looked like late 40s, early 50s. The kind that can stick her fingernail on a glass window and go, and a little circle of glass just falls out, right? Like a real life, rip you a new asshole type woman. There's a certain kind of Southern woman that you and I are familiar with that you just get the fuck out of her way, or they'll chew you to pieces. And she said she had some sort of thing where I think she's got some kind of, this is from yesterday at the end of the episode, she does something where she reviews shit that China's involved in. But she's also, talking about the tech companies, and Bannon had asked her about Twitter, cutting her out. And she was like, I got something to say to Jack Dorsey. We're fixing to own, we're going to take all your money because we're going to own your ass. So there's a reaction, and it's coming, and it's on all levels.
You and I have spoken about it before, although we called it RICO, and she says, we're going to own your ass.
Right. And conspiracy, rolls it in too. But yeah, RICO is what I guess lets you, that's the financial part of it, right?
RICO is more than that, but RICO is predominantly financial. Yeah.
So
what
do
they
you
don't
think,
realize, go ahead.
No, please.
What they don't realize is that RICO is multifaceted. RICO is what will allow you to take every penny that Google owns, and that what's his name, the fellow with Amazon owns, because there's a commingling in there. Commingling is one of those cute little things. If you commingle the money, then every last penny, if you commingle 1 cent of your ill-gotten gains with 99 cents worth of legitimate gains, all 100 pennies belong to the government. Woo!
Yeah.
Because you commingled them.
There's a fucking coming.
Speculatively speaking.
Right. It puts me in mind of that old favorite joke. I tell it all the time, but I'm going to tell it again anyway. The guy moves into this place, and it's way out in the country somewhere, and he's got his house, and the nearest neighbor's like 5 miles away, and he's out there unpacking his stuff and sort of straightening things up, making it his own, and this putt truck comes rolling up, and the guy gets out and says, hello there, neighbor, I'm going to be, I want to welcome you, we're going to have a party down my way. And the guy says, sounds good. The guy says, well, what's going to be happening? The guy says, well, first there's going to be some drinking. And the guy's like, sounds good, man. I'll take that. I could use a beer. It's good to live here. Good to meet you. And the guy says, well, then there's probably going to be some fighting. The guy said, well, that's all right. I can roll with the best of them. Sometimes, you got to let it all out. The guy says, and then there's going to be some fucking. And as you know, the punchline is where the guy says, well, who's going to be there? The guy says, you and me. So that's what's about to happen. First, there's going to be drinking. And that's what we're looking at now. Then there's going to be fighting, and a lot of it will be legal. But in the end, it's going to be fucking Trump doing the wow, wow. Like it's going to be straight out of the 70s.
It's going to be exciting. That's fact. I just don't. I just don't see these people being up to it until they've been worked up to it, and that's what we're in the midst of now. We're working them up to it.
And that's that fine line between stampede and mooing complacence.
Yeah, we want them just trucking along at a good.
You want to come in curious, like when somebody starts playing the trumpet for a herd and you see the first cow sort of appear over the horizon listening, and they're like playing the music, and then the other cows come up behind them all curious. We want them about there, I guess.
No, a little further along than that. I want them to where they're moving along. They're not in a stampede mode. They're basically in the here we go and let's do it up right now. Ha ha. It's where you slapped the saddle a couple of times and got them moving along, but you haven't got them running. You haven't even got them trotting yet. They're just kind of moving along at a quick time march. And very shortly thereafter, there'll be some Democrats get up there, try to turn the herd, and they're going to get smashed. They're going to get gored. They're going to get trampled. And very shortly, there's going to be a whole bunch of, how shall I say this?
For those who don't know, there are many new memes. There is the tubining, to tubin, and there is the conga dance of shame. Which seems to be like how should we say this? A continental African version of a frog march. I mean, how does that work? Is it a perp walk? What is the conga dance?
Well, it's sort of like letting old Carmen Miranda lead everybody into the jail. Carmen Miranda is just kind of, she had a big hat, my it was high. Had bananas and mangoes all piled to the sky.
I want to know half what's loaded into your brain there. Well, I guess we can turn to questions. We're past an hour now. Are you up for that, Tim? Would you be willing to take questions from the audience?
I'm up to it.
Well, then before, first thing, don't worry about the app thing, ladies and gentlemen. This situation has changed. What you need to do to ask me questions is you need to write Semigog in all caps, and then I will catch it. Guy from Vermont, or from V, I guess that's Vermont. I always want to imagine it's Vermont. Guy from V says, Tubin meme isn't that funny, but I can handle it. It's not that it's funny. It's that he should be remembered forever for jerking off into the screen there. He should not be able to live that down. Before we get to the questions, I'm going to ask you one last one of my own, Tim, so that people have time to sort of think their questions and get some up there on screen. So, and I'm particularly happy to field questions from people who legitimately want to poke holes in any of these ideas. Anybody who wants to, say, no, it's not going to be like that and has some point to raise. I do not, however, have time for people who are just like, you're dumb, Trump's a pussy, whatever. Like, actually,
I want to interrupt you here just one moment. Yona Ragnarok says nobody is old enough to remember Carmen Miranda and her fruit salad hat. I am.
Yeah, and in fact, I am.
Good enough,
You're like, shut up, Oliver. All right, then yeah. So people ask questions, put a semigog in all caps before it, and I'll see it. So Tim, this is the last thing I want to ask you. How far do you think that these tech companies? We talked about this many times, but it's appearing now that what's his name, Zuckerberg had dropped hundreds of millions into, drop boxes for votes and, get out the vote operations and all sorts of weird, creepy shit. How likely do you think it is, per this woman's remark about we're going to own your ass? How much of a chance do you think there is that some of them will be called to account on it sooner than later?
Pretty good. I just don't see a whole lot of necessity for remembering one or the other, or this or that one. There's going to be so much shame going around that I just don't see any point in remembering any of it. It's just like, big sting. That's all.
Did you just say big sting?
Yeah.
Like a bumblebee just came rolling by and fucked them?
More like a death hornet.
Death hornet.
Death hornet.
All right. Okay. Well, then, yeah, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I sure hope so, because I'll tell you what, that is a fucking consummation devoutly to be wished.
Mm.
All right.
I'm going to get enough of it pretty early on. That's all right.
Travis Blaze says, Semigog, what did you think of all those famous people changing their profile pics to black and whites once the server that was captured was pinged? I only heard a little bit about this. Tim, you might not have heard about it, but there are some people who changed their little thumbnail images for their social media accounts to black and white photos. I tend to think that it was just a way to suggest that there's a historical moment, because all the big historical moments that we see are from the days of black and white photos. I mean, the vast majority of them, because only recently in history have we had color photography. It's also like where, you know, you get like magnum documentary photographers and journalists who go to the war zones and take pictures of the most striking things, you know, for even though they don't have to, they'll still use black and white photos because it's supposed to be the most striking, the most dramatic. You've got chiaroscuro. It taps that sense of distant history. I tend to think that it was a semiotic play like that, but I don't know. You know, we're a part of history. You can see us in stark black and white. This is a historical moment, but I'm just speculating. Tim, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Once upon a time, black and white photography was very much more striking than it is now, because of the way in which black and white photography was recorded. I don't know if you've ever done any work with photography, but have you? The nature of the silver that they used in that stuff was ungodly. Even the old cheap porno movies were so loaded with silver content to bring out the flesh tones and so on.
You mean to bring out the tonal range? Obviously, we don't have flesh tones because it's black and white.
Well, yes, we do have flesh tones, even though it be black and white. If you look at different kinds of flesh, different photographs of flesh, depending on the amount of silver in the film base, you see immense differences.
Well, okay, I'll let that hang there. But I got this crazy idea to kind of want to come back around to the question of why they were using black and white photos in their profile pictures.
Because black and white tends to make everything stark.
All right, so you're saying basically the same thing I was. Make it historical, show it in its stark colors, make it striking, dramatic.
Okay.
It's going to be like that. I'm glad I'm not within range of you hitting me. Okay. I am fucking grateful. Adherent of Lady Columbia says, Semigog, should I wear my dress shoes or boots for the fucking? I'm going to hand that one over to you, Tim.
Well, it depends on whether you're the fucky or the fucker.
a top or a bottom.
That's it.
Yeah, I think the more aggressive role suggests boots, I guess is what Tim is saying.
Sure.
In a roundabout way. I mean, unless you want to wear the heels, in which, yeah, depending on which back pocket you wear your bandana in and what color that bandana is. Okay, let's leave that alone and move on to another one here. I'm going to try to catch up. Where are these damn? Good God. Sorry, I'm having to scroll back up here, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me. It's going to be just a moment. I got to see where I left off with the other question so I don't miss any of you kind viewers here. All right, I think I'm way too far because I'm not seeing them. So let me just scroll down. It was working in the other one, but it doesn't show all of them. Maybe I have to go back to the other one. Maybe it's like Travis Blaze. Oh, there's the black and white question. Okay, this one's from El Vaquero 555. Sir, the Fed printed enough that if the economy starts back up, money supply increases by a minimum of 200% quick. Lockdown stop this. Think that's the real reason? I don't know enough about this subject. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that? Yeah, I can reread it for you if you like.
No, I understand it. The question is not whether or not they're going to have too much money, but what will they do with it? So this is one of the reasons the Fed is buying up all the bonds. It's just standard bullshit.
How the rich get richer and the poor get younger.
That's it.
All right. Well, we'll leave that for the side. I've got another one from Third Wave Red Pill. Says, Semicog, what do you and Tim think about Proud Boys in general and a possible transition from fighting Antifa to fighting the GOP? I don't have anything negative to say about them. I'm not a joiner. I saw a few of them at the Million MAGA March. A lot of them look like rear area commandos. Some few of them look like veterans. They all look like guys who want to kind of together and get in fights. That's fine. I'm sure there are people on the other side who want to fight with them. Again, don't have anything against them. I just don't think that they're ultimately significant in any way. So, fighting Antifa or fighting the GOP, I don't think it really matters. Tim, do you have any thoughts?
Just exactly what you said.
Well, hot damn, I'll take that. Then let's see. This is Semigog. This is from Adherent of Lady Columbia. Why has Trump not held rallies or events to bolster support to counteract the propaganda of legacy media to restrain him? Is it to restrain him from revealing any information or other reasons? I tend to think because it isn't time yet. He got proof of concept with the Million MAGA March that he didn't have to directly intervene, and he pulled out, I'd say fairly, between 200,000 and 300,000 people within a week's notice. The Georgia rally that I went to was probably about 3,000 people when I left it, which was 2 hours after it started. It might have gotten a little bigger. So people will come out on their own at present. I think he's saving that for situations where he needs it, and thereby and so doesn't want to doesn't want to waste the rounds, so to speak. Tim, do you have any?
That's exactly right.
I'll take it. Hot damn, 2 for 2. Okay. This is from Genius SRPR. Semigog, what are your thoughts on Davos being moved to May next year and the Dragon Prince being there, aka Charles? I don't know. I'm seeing that. What's his name? Klaus Schwab, that fucking dude in his Klingon outfit. Turns out I think that was something he wore as part of a graduation from some or honorary degree he got from some place in Latvia or Lithuania or some shit, Estonia, I can't remember. That weird ass, foul globalist technocrat commie bitch. I've been seeing him, and with Biden, I'm seeing a lot of Prince Charles talking to him, and I guess that's the kind of general picture you're talking about. I wasn't aware Davos had been moved. As far as Charles coming in with the Build Back Better, Boris Johnson coming in with the Build Back Better, Joe Biden having his Office of the President-elect website being called Build Back Better. Those are just marching orders that have been sent down from on high, and it's the brittle moment where all of this shit is about to come crashing down around all of them, just at the moment when they felt they finally got their grip around the globe, around their red apple. I think it ain't gonna happen. And if Charles,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, what?
I was just going Tubin.
No, Tubin. I think that if the royal family starts to cause too much
around a
trouble,
great big red apple. Oh my God.
there is quite enough.
You understand?
There is quite enough in going on with Prince Andrew, that if people like Prince Charles, once the memo gets sent out and people are are invited to get the hint, if he doesn't shut the fuck up, I think there are all kinds of levers that can probably pull people just through the angle of Prince Andrew that will shut him up. But for now, it's just favors are being called out. All these people are having to talk. Boris is having to do what he's doing. Andrew Neil in the United Kingdom, man, I love it. Academic Agent is going after Andrew Neil, and should, because it's arrived at the point where now the public knows that Andrew Neil's character is in perfect correspondence with his physical features. All of these people are coming scurrying out of the woodwork because the people who gave them their seat at the table long ago have basically, the hue and cry has gone up, and they are supposed to come out and defend the termite nest. And yeah, I think it's not going to go well for them, is my guess. Tim, do you have anything to add on this business of Davos?
Well, yes, in light of how my most recent comments have been received, I think I'll just go, it's pure speculation, but it's all bullshit, Ollie. It's all bullshit. The communist Chinese and their fellow travelers have just about ringed the globe round with their build back better, their do this better, they're fixing to take a bite on the big bullet. The question is the bullet going to be coming at them slowly, or is it going to be coming at 1,100 foot-pounds a second? Whoops.
1,100 feet per second. Yes, I'm with you. FPS. Yes. Yes.
That's right.
So is it the slow blade that's going to penetrate the shield, or is it going to be a red mist, right?
I don't know, man.
In Minecraft.
I think they'll just put they're bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit, Ollie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I wake up every morning and I look at the news and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, literally, I see the news about Biden and the first words that come into my mind are almost, jogger, please. Like, I just look at it and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's what I mean by the brittleness. It's so obviously, it's a husk. It's bullshit. It's like cargo cult planes. It's like a scarecrow. It's like trying to scare kids with a rattle,
Sure.
Anyway.
And they're doing it.
All right. Then we got Casey Semigod. You think if Biden is president that Trump could create bull news and the current Republican Party wigs for 2024? I don't think any of that's going to happen. This whole 2024 thing is a theme that is put out there to prime people to basically, it's talking about 2024 for Trump is like someone who, this happened to me once when I was a kid. I was drinking too much, and God help me, it was fucking Southern Comfort, which I do not recommend. And I do not recommend a half bottle of it. And even if you're young and frisky, I do not recommend going outside in the middle of freezing cold weather in winter to clear your head, because I found myself sitting with my back against a tree with way too much Southern Comfort in me in freezing weather. And I thought, this is just nice. I'm just going to rest here for a minute.
You do that. Yeah.
People, yeah, it's like Jeremiah Johnson, right? People who want to talk about 2024 are like people who would come out and find me drunk in the cold, leaning against the tree, about to take a nap, who pat you on the shoulder and say, why don't you just rest a while, honey? I have no interest in this 2024 shit. It ain't happening.
No, it's not, but it's beautiful Democratic propaganda.
Absolutely. Oh my God, the number of people who just appeared on Twitter out of nowhere and jump in on my account, and they're all like trying to engage me reasonably. They're like, just think about it. You know, he could come back in a better situation in 2024.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's not realistic. I mean, at some point, you've just got to accept that Biden is the president. I mean, it's just it's fucking everywhere. And I can almost smell that fucking scent that I smelled in Shanghai when I ordered room service for noodles. And I've told you about it before. When I put my nose down to the bowl, I smelled a smell that was like a cross between disgusting chemicals and human shit that was just kind of a wafty thing over the water. Like, I imagine every time I get that kind of shit on my Twitter account, I can, you know how when you go into a person who does shoe repair or alterations, and it's like a Korean or a Chinese family, and the first thing that happens when you go in the place is you smell that some fucking shit and dumplings are being boiled in the back. And there's always steam on the inside of the windows because at this same place they work, the mama is in the back, like boiling some shit to eat. That is what I imagine in my mind's eye, is the smell of a bowl of noodles and the steam on the inside of the windows and someone sitting in front of a rack of like 200 smartphones sending out fucking chats. That's what I hear when I hear 2024. Sorry.
There you are. That's all right.
Travis Blaze says, Semigok, do you think Antifa retaliating for Trump not conceding may kick off more actual clamping down on them, or more of the same? I'll leave that to you, Tim. What do you think the role of street violence as a lever, and of Antifa in particular, and a putative law enforcement response to it? What role do you think that's going to play?
Well, I think that's going to be up to the states and the local government.
Federalism. And what do you think we're going to see on that spectrum?
Well, I think we're going to see a whole bunch of
which variety?
Well, I think we're going to see a whole bunch of people wanting to call 911 and 911 saying we can't respond. We don't have the people to respond. Oh my goodness.
So basically what I'm hearing is you think it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be them they're going to be stomping all over their dick thinking they're triumphant and building up all kinds of community resentment, and the same kind of thing that drove Trump's victory thus far.
And yet I see a whole bunch of people who are mayors and council people and whatnot going, but it's me, I'm calling. And they're going to be told, I'm sorry, 911 doesn't have a...
yeah. Due to unusually high call volume. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And I've been getting that. Oh, my God. I've been trying to call the Secretary of State in Georgia. I'm not going to do it anymore because they don't answer. They don't answer. No one answers.
No.
It's like if you call about pandemic unemployment insurance, there's no...
Crickets.
It doesn't go anywhere. No one answers the phone anywhere.
Yeah.
I just checked for Georgia Department of Labor, and I checked down a whole row of phone numbers in the lab. You know what? I'm just going to fucking call every one of them because surely I'm going to get someone who will give me an internal switchboard.
Ha, 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 ha.
None. All you've got is a form entry option that goes nowhere. It's like I said, the panopticon has grown fat with facts of its own networked apotheosis, and still Leviathan lists, fly blown with ism and mist, taking us down as it goes. There's no one to answer. You know, out of the many comes the none. There's no, that's our new government. Yes. And I'll tell you what, it'll be delightful to see.
Reminds you of Russia.
Yeah, even there though, like I remember Turkey in the 90s, if you wanted to get a telephone turned on, you had to bribe, right? Because otherwise your application would just keep going down in the stack because the other people were bribing and it just went to nowhere.
Sure.
But you could get someone because ultimately those people knew that they would get their bakshish if they dealt with you. So at some point you could reach them, right? Even if you had to call a cousin who knew somebody, right? But now they're completely insulated. It's like, it's the mail slot goes to the incinerator. Anyway, I'm sorry. I sound like a child. I sound like a child. You're like,
man, it's just like Russia,
Right. Like, we'll take your, comment room is available in back. Now, if third time you visit for comments, I have to tell you that maybe you don't come back. Right. Okay. Let me see if I can find someone. Okay, Travis Blaze says, Pardon?
Take third door on left, goes directly to Siberia.
Right. You are not coming back.
Yeah.
Right. When do you think Ray's going to get the axe? Also, perhaps the head of the CIA. I heard she meandered around. This is from Travis Blaze. I heard she meandered around and kept in the dark to get those servers. I'm not convinced yet. It's total question mark up in the air. It could be disinformation, misinformation. She could be playing games within games. I have no idea, honestly, one way or the other, whether or not Haspel's going to get the axe, if she's a good guy or a bad guy, so to speak. I think it's pretty clear that Ray is a shithead. I think he's probably going to get the axe or quietly retire. These kinds of things. I think that's going to happen just at the very beginning of the time that all of them get it.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I used to think that it was just the 7th floor, maybe the 6th floor as well, of the J. Edgar Hoover building that we were going to see a conga line dance out of. Yeah. I now think it's the entire J. Edgar Hoover building. And they're going to have to bring in somebody from outside, somebody who is probably heading up a section. I don't know if it's going to be Utah or not, but it's going to be somebody from somewhere else. It's going to have to be.
Yeah, it puts me in mind of this story I heard from a Greek soldier. You know, they have to do their military service the way the Turks do and the rest. And they were talking about bed bug problems that they had. And it turned out that they had a way of dealing with that. The Greek military, they put together the beds are made out of pipe, right? Or tubing, steel tubing. And they would just order new mattresses, and they would empty the buildings out entirely and go in and poison the living shit out of them. But what they would do is they would drag the bed frames out and throw them into fires because they're steel tubing. And you just hear them sizzling and popping and exploding up in there. And they took care of the problem. I mean, the point we're getting to come back around to what you were saying, is that apparently all the beds in the J. Edgar Hoover building need to be dragged out and cooked. Because the fucking bed bugs are everywhere.
Yes, they are.
And we're seeing that within municipalities, the elections officials, the secretaries of states, the state level republic. I mean, this is going to be, man, this is going to be
exciting. Yes.
There's going to be a full stage. There's going to be a stage full of people. And there's going to be all sorts of folks who are facing all sorts of problems. And it's going to be dramatic.
Yeah. I want to see Barack Obama and Miss Hillary up there on that stage. Boom.
Yeah. Well,
speculation, pure speculation.
Absolutely. And that is a fact. Do your own research. Who is it? Jason Kona puts it a good way. He's like, go to CNN, go to a reliable source. They know what's going on. Check with them. They'll let you know all of this is speculation. All right. Let me see if I can get down to some other questions here. We still got about a half hour left. What's going on here?
I don't know. Are you?
I don't know either, man. Let me check over here and see if I can see any of them. It looks like we're out of questions. No one wants to ask me anymore. I'm trying. Oh, Joseph Stalin says, Semyagon, have you watched the Michigan certification stream yesterday? No, I didn't. Tim, did you see it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I catch some of that kind of stuff, but that right there, I mean, I'd almost watch CNN in the airport.
Granular for me.
Yeah. All right. Mad Merc is in the house. Hello, sir, and welcome. Semigog, I don't recommend Southern Comfort, and I especially don't recommend half a bottle of Southern Comfort. Me, too late. Yeah, I can't. It's so sweet, man. I got alcohol poisoning to the point where it almost killed me at age 14 from drinking half a bottle of Röke without water. And I can still go back and drink Röke. I don't drink anymore, really, but I could have a glass of Röke with food and that kind of thing, and it wouldn't bother me. Southern Comfort, anything that dries, sticky. Yeah, sorry. You have any thoughts on Southern Comfort, Tim?
Yeah, Janis Joplin said all there was to say about Southern Comfort.
And what was that?
Glug, 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 glug.
Right. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz?
That's it.
Poor Janis. Wasn't it you who said Janis Joplin sang like an angel? She did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are still some of her songs I love to listen to.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Well, there's that, but there's also the thing of when she sang the blues, real blues, like Ball and Chain and so on.
Yeah.
Boy,
Take another little piece of my heart now, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, she did good.
Yeah, yep. It's crazy seeing her on like the Dick Cavett show and stuff because she's a kid, man.
Yeah.
Looking back at time at this wild ass kid from Texas, right? Wasn't she from Texas?
I believe she was.
All right. John Ski is in the house, a moderator, a gentleman, and a scholar. Asks, what is this great reset I keep hearing about? Great reset's just another way for commie dominion. It's another phrasing of Build Back Better. Yeah, but the joke is on them because the moment they press the great reset button, they're going to be hoist with their own petard. In fact, that we are watching the slow motion train wreck of that occurring. They've already pressed the button. It's just in slow motion as you begin to see them, Yes.
Well, that's the way it is, when you start sliding a pike up somebody's butt. Whoa!
Well, we have this from Waterpenny. Semigog new Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan legislatures. Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan legislatures to hold public hearings on 2020 election. I had heard they were trying to get those in. I heard they were trying to get one in Michigan. Yeah, the legislatures. We're going to see, man. That's the thing is once you go down the rabbit hole of pretending to be weak and constantly retreating to foster the whole tactical double enveloping movement, it becomes impossible to tell how far they're going to take this because, I mean, they could drag it out to where all of these legislatures the people could get up and make these cases and arguments about how it's this, that, and the other thing. And Trump could wait until after that to have the other shoe drop so they all look like fools. I mean, we've seen it time and again, like Lynn Wood has come out and he's like, stuff was done with the ballots. And then everyone is like, no, nothing was done with the ballots. And then it appears that he's got footage of shredding trucks coming out of Cobb County with ballots. And then they're like, nothing happened with the ballots. And then he turns out that the A1 shredding company has come over to him and said, we've called the FBI and we're contacting people to be, cooperating witnesses to the event. It's much like, no, I'm not suggesting violence, mind you. It's much like when you have a bomb go off and then there's a second one set for when all the first responders arrive. Like, so the business of these legislatures and their hearings and everything, that could be more of these same kind of traps, just drawing them out. And next thing you know, the bed bugs are fucking sizzling and popping in the fire. So any thoughts on these legislative hearings in the legislatures, Tim?
I think they're 5 pounds of shit in a 2-pound bag, Olive.
Let me just double check, though. Is that how you feel about politicians in general, sir?
Yes.
Exactly
how I feel about them.
Fine. Would you tell me once upon a time? There are two ways you describe politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, there are two ways that Tim Russell has described politicians. Once, well, no, that was lawyers, one of them, but lawyers are so often politicians. Politicians are like taxi drivers. As long as you're putting money in the meter, they'll keep going.
That's it.
Right. The other one was what they find a group of people and run around to get in the front of them in order to say that they were leading them the whole time.
Yeah, they got to make sure there's a big enough crowd that's got enough to keep on going. Yeah, I saw that when what's his name? I saw a tweet come out from the Million MAGA March Twitter account, and it talks about Nick Fuentes, and it shows a picture of him standing in front of the crowd that had formed that day in Atlanta, and it says Nick Fuentes leading the crowd, and I'm like, yeah, he's leading that crowd.
And then, not to be dogging him, he does yeoman work in his way. That fucking dodgy ass dude named Ali or whatever is creepy, and I pointed that out early on that there were lots of pictures of Nick Fuentes with that Ali guy. And I got blocked by Fuentes for my trouble just for bringing that up. Now we've seen some interesting footage with Fuentes and Alex Jones and that Ali guy in the Georgia Capitol building, where Ali's talking about how hillbillies shouldn't be able to run the country.
Absolutely.
I think that went over well with a bunch of deplorables gathered.
Oh, yeah.
What I was talking about something. Oh, the other way that you can refer to politicians, strictly speaking, you were talking about lawyers, but it just seems to fit so well. Somebody said that you should become a lawyer because you've been in law school for a while. And what was it you said? If I wanted to suck dick, I'd get knee pads. And how'd that go?
Was my great uncle Justice. And he backed me into a corner there at my grandparents' house and told me I ought to be a lawyer, that I owed it to the country to be a lawyer. And I said that if I wanted to do that kind of business, I'd just get a set of knee pads and hang out in the park.
And was this gentleman, do I remember correctly, was this Justice?
Yes, it was.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. I'm going to jump to another question here then. Wellston Deplorable just heard that Antifa threatened Trump must concede by Sunday or else.
Or else what?
Yeah. Then we'll get to throw peanuts at them in their cage. I don't know. Who cares? Waterpenny says, Donald J. Trump just put out a statement on the hearings. If somebody can shoot me a link to that, I'll take a look while we're on here and maybe we can hear Tim's thoughts, but I haven't seen that.
Which hearings are these?
I think they're the ones that she just mentioned in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona.
Those. All right, very good.
See,
Trump's wanting to stir a little bit.
Right. Count Raymond 1V says, Semi-Gog, what does Tim think the knock-on effects from the U.S. patriotic recovery are going to be on other nations? I'll let Tim answer, but I think we kind of covered that a little bit. You have a short version, Tim?
Yeah. Cool. Everybody's waiting for us. You may have noticed that. Everybody's waiting for the United States of America, because that's what's going to determine the United States of America's reaction to all these things. Well, now look, just take it. Let's just take one instance of it. Trump has us out of the Paris Accords. All right. Biden wants us back in the Paris Accords. Okay. What are the fallouts from all of that internationally?
Right, or the JPC or whatever, the Iran thing, right? There are any number of these, and these people can't figure out whose dick they're supposed to suck. So
they don't know yet.
Right.
So they're just going, excuse me a moment, I've got to clean up a little bit here first.
Right.
Yeah. And bullshit. Who cares? I mean, to put it bluntly, a whole bunch of these dick suckers are nothing but dick suckers.
Well, there it is.
That's it. They're the boys who've lined up to spend their whole life in the barrel. And that's fine.
Right. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it, right?
Well,
Say if they don't got to do it, somebody's going to do it.
Oh, I noticed that the Philippines has put some sort of a hold or something on their visa requirements and whatnot for retirees retiring to the Philippines. Seems that Duarte is not quite sure how to handle all that at this point.
I mean, he's put all.
Okay,
yeah. So yet another example. Everybody's waiting on it, and we'll see. I think my short answer for Count Raymond is that I believe we're going to see a populist wave be exploited. Populist wave and resentment and backlash against the business of the COVID restrictions and the commification and the immigration. Let's not forget about that. All of that is going to be used to power a massive.
I bet those towns along the Mexican border are just bigger than bullshit, with a whole bunch of people just waiting to dash over, find out What's going to happen? Well, they better possess themselves of patience because they're going to be there a while.
Right. All right. This is a decent question here. This is from Travis Blaze again. Do you think Trump, if pushed, will execute his emergency power that he is granted under his own 2018 executive order that he passed in regards to foreign interference in elections and electoral fraud? My short answer, I'm just going to give this to you, Tim, but my short answer is I think that he's probably using it already, but it's going to be primarily in behind the scenes ways for the same point that Tim brought up earlier, that you don't want to be looking like a dictator or you're installing a junta or something at the moment when you're supposed to like save the American dream.
Yeah, like that.
You think he's going to do anything with it overt in public?
He has. Overt in public. My friends and fellow Americans, it is with a heavy heart that I come to you today
to describe to you the Sitel servers which were seized on German territory. Yeah, okay. All right.
With a heavy heart and a gut full of gas.
This is from Bobby Blackout. I'll let you answer this if you choose to, but or maybe you can give some very brief way of addressing it. This is saying, can you gents do a quick rundown on how Trump can use military, police, and guard forces to crush the bugs?
Sure. All he's got to do is have the governors either step forward and demand some help, which they're going to have to do shortly, or wait until it poses a threat to everybody else in the country. Either one will do. I'd prefer to have the governors ask for the help, as would Trump.
Right. All right. I'm seeing people arguing about Nick Fuentes.
But there'll be a horrible squish, squish, squish sound when he does it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Squish as the bugs pop.
Squish.
Pop and squirt. Yeah. Just on this business, people fight about Nick Fuentes in the background. All I'll say is I'm not dogging him. Because at this point, I don't want to, what do they say, punch right? We must stand together at this point to get this stuff sorted. And he does bring his own crowd. So there it is. Tommy Spate says, Semigawk, I caught a bit of MonkeyWorks US streams observing upticks in non-civilian air traffic activity recently and where they go. You guys ever check that kind of educated guessing? I've seen some of it. Like I saw something about, a particular plane that, picks up documents going to Toronto, but I don't follow it closely. I don't know much about it. I'd be basically paddling in waters I don't understand. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that?
Same thoughts here.
All right. This is from Travis Blaze again. What do we have here? We got 13 minutes. Peoples, come in with your questions. Do you think the international banks will crash the markets in retaliation for Trump pulling this stuff off? Stocks are overvalued a lot right now, and investors are in a state of delusion. I've just been seeing it crash and get worked one way and another this whole time. I mean, we just saw the entire world get smashed financially. Anything else is going to be basically just like it's like setting off your biggest fireworks, and then afterwards you're going to set off the ones that otherwise you would have started with. It's like people are going to be like, who cares? Tim, any?
About the size of it.
I like this. This is all right. Either I'm right or Tim's bored as shit. So let me see here. Don't answer, Tim. I don't want to know.
I won't.
Just tell us you love us.
I love you. Of course I love you, baby.
Well, how's that go? What's the second part?
I'm fucking you, Ada.
Right. Aaron of Lady Columbia says, Semigog, is it a sense of entitlement or a sense of wanting total order out of a sense of fear that has allowed the utopian games to project their plans for centuries? I think the short version of that question is, how the fuck have they gotten away with it for so long? What do you think the answer is to that, Tim?
Because they keep getting new recruits. Every time somebody notices what's happened to them and how their butt cheeks are covered in Vaseline, they go, well, I think I'll go home now. And at the other end of it, there's somebody coming in and say, oh, really? You want to just check my prostate? Yeah.
So human frailty, stupidity, and greed, and all the other failings.
You know how you can tell when you're in real trouble? When you can feel both your proctologist hands on your shoulders. Yep.
It's gonna be like that. Yeah. All right. Casey has come back and said my PR virus question was in regards to both DNC and RNC being bifurcated and splitting into bull moose or wig, not Trump 2024 versus 2020. I will say this. Sorry, I misunderstood your question earlier, though I think it was worthwhile to make the point about 2024. Yes, I think there's going to be a lot of changes with the parties, whether or not one or the other of them disappears entirely, or whether or not they just get, they remain around as a private label that gets stuck on an entirely new animal. I don't know how that's going to go, but yeah, expect to see changes with, divisions and subdivisions of the dialectical game that we refer to as our two-party system. Semigog, you mentioned the Democrats are going into total hysteria. They also engage in a lot of mental projection against Trump. Do they have some sort of underlying mental disease? I think basically all of the things that. What's the short version of this? I did a clip called "Social Justice Makes People Sick," and then there was a group of clips on SJWs and personality disorders that I did.
Anybody who adheres to a political ideology that of any sort, doesn't matter what sort, is by definition sick. They're ill. They don't have anything else going for them. It's ridiculous. People are not set up to endorse ideologies. They're just not. Endorsement of ideologies is a particular juvenile characteristic. And once you have passed the juvenile stage, then you really don't have any more use for it. Now, with that said, I will shut my mouth.
No, that's well observed. And in some ways, sicknesses are the processes of emotional or psychological development that go awry and end up in some backwater, right? And
they're also a process of maturation. So what?
Right, if you go through it the right way. And what I've seen is that adolescence has been weaponized. Those clips I refer to, social justice makes people sick, and the early ones on the personality disorders make a case for how many of these predispositions of people that get misnamed illness, bearing in mind that what's called illness is the process that should have occurred naturally being arrested with malice aforethought. I think the case can be made that they have identified types of illness and dependency and natural human frailty, and they are amplifying them in order to keep people enchained, much like, the infamy, as Voltaire referred to the Catholic Church at one point, institutions.
Much like the ideologies expressed in Lord of the Four Quarters.
Far Side of Madness.
Uh-huh. If you look at what this man had to say, he said you get through it in about 28 days if you don't take drugs and therapies that make it refuse out.
And as long as you accept what's called delusional material and work with it rather than trying to stifle it. For those who are not familiar with it, it's John Weir Perry. You could safely say he's roughly out of the Jungian tradition. But yeah, he had some therapeutic things he undertook and some experiments, and he wrote The Far Side of Madness and Lord of the Four Quarters and a few other books. I've only read those two though, and ran into some trouble with having slept with a patient at some point. I heard through the grapevine from a shrink way back when. Yeah, interesting books though. We now have about 5 minutes left. Let's find a good final question here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to come in with the closing question. Mad Merc is asking about Free Cities projects. That's a little bit big to tackle in 5 minutes, and I'd have to do a little bit of research there as well. Okay, I've already answered it here to Lady Columbia's question. Perhaps you didn't notice there. Come on now, we got Mr. Tim for 5 more minutes. Surely. Well, here's one for you, Tim, because it's just sitting there and no one has asked a further question. Oh, well, no, here's a good one. Here's a good one. It's Travis Blaze again, who's come through for us. Thank you for good questions today, Travis Blaze. Well, here's a quick one from Klaus Ebner. Tim, are you going to be taking the COVID vaccine?
No.
There we are. You don't even need to ask me. So here's here's our closing question, Tim. Do you think communism, socialism is going to come back after all this again, or will people finally wake up after this? What are your thoughts on that?
Now, there'd be a whole fresh bunch of them to be inoculated with it. That's all. Anybody who's not a communist when he's 20 has no heart. Anybody who is a communist by the time he's 30 has no mind.
So it's naturally going to roll in generational cohorts.
Listen, honey. Sure it is. Especially as long as we've got all these academics who don't have to do anything to produce anything. Stop and think for a minute, Ollie. If we made these academics produce something worthwhile, something somebody would pay for, there'd be a lot more geared to success, would they not? They'd want to put 25 cents in and get out 50, right? As it is, they want to put 25 cents in and then put in 50 cents more. I've got no use for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tend to think that the answer isn't to mercantilize the halls of academia. I think in many respects it's enough to not to seek to democratize them beyond the natural distribution in the population of people who are suited for them. I don't want to make them exclusive, but I want to stop pretending.
Why would you want to mercantilize them?
I think they should be mercantilized in the sense that to be institutions operating within our world, they should generate a profit or be turned to a profitable purpose beyond the simple thing with income. They can have profit be a second order effect, right, for the people that they turn out or something like that, right? I don't have to get into all that. But what I am looking at is that it seems...
What are universities for, Ollie?
To create better human beings.
No, they're not. What are universities?
Oh, you talking about... Oh, for keeping the people out of the workforce for a certain amount of time and settling in with debt.
For? What are universities for?
I just gave you 2 options.
I reject them both. What are universities for?
If it's not to, okay, I'll throw another one out there, which is normative behavioral and ideational standards.
No.
It's not to create a better class of person through education. If it's not to create a better class of person through education, if it's not to establish normative behavioral and ideational structures, whatever, and it's not to keep people out of the workforce and saddle them with debt, then I confess I do not know.
It was to educate people in how to do things. That the society needed to go off into esoteric areas that, in your estimation, would further. Well, it's like Einstein with his physics. There was so much that nobody really understood about physics.
Sure. Or you could say looking
Einstein and
into
his group of people, wait a minute. Einstein and his group of people went further, researched more on very little money, and then kaboom, here we go. Suddenly we had lots of stuff to do with physics, all the way up to and including chips. We had lots of people who stepped outside the bounds of academia.
Right. So basically, they open up the frontiers of knowledge, and thereby enabling the critical point being the application of that knowledge. Because of your old remark, knowledge isn't power. Knowledge applied is power.
Applied knowledge is power. You can have all the knowledge you want, but unless you apply it, it is not power. That's interesting, Ollie.
Yeah, I
I'll
heard
bear that
from
in mind.
You fucker. All right. It's fucking Narcissus and Echo. Just fucking.
You have to remember, Ollie,
that voice.
that no matter what else you do, a university must teach people how to do things that are needful to society.
The point being that at present they're not doing so.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I caught wind of that.
Did you catch wind of that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're actively attempting
right,
to destroy our societies. Yes.
Oh, okay. Why are they getting a chance to do that?
Because we're asleep at the wheel.
And nihilism is the order of the day, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
it is. Nothing. So, yeah. So, yes, nihilism is the order of the day. So the question is,
I think you were laughing at my pissing.
Yeah, this is a high quality joint.
Well, the thing is, I've had a couple of strokes. I've got all kinds of difficulty in moving around. You may have noticed I
absolutely
move one way and another.
Absolutely, and I'm not a tender snowflake. We're good. Okay, so universities are a mess, and yeah, I'm trying to remember what the original question was that we were addressing. Do you recall, Tim? Because we have come to the.
What are universities for?
No, that's what you asked me. That's not what the viewer. It was. This was all about. This was all about communism and socialism coming back, and the ranks of people who are indoctrinated at each time. And I guess your point was something's going to have to be sorted out with the schools in order to address some of this. I think
it will. Yes. Oh, tumbrils roll this way.
Yes. Danton Effie.
A great creator of conveyances for the upper class.
Tumbrils on all sides. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone past the mark here. Mr. Tim, do you have any closing remarks? You put up with me all this time. Is there anything else you want to share in parting, in closing with our lovely,
no, I just did that
wonderful
go with the piss bucket.
Right. Let me check. Do you give a fuck?
You're right. I don't.
You don't.
Not somehow, even a little itty bitty teeny weeny fuck.
Somehow, I guess. Yes. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, beautiful people, all of you without exception, like my wonderful friend Tim here, all of you beautiful people. I love you all dearly. Stand together in this exciting time that we see before us, and don't forget to enjoy the risible spectacle of all of it, because a lot of times when you feel like you should be crying, the case is that you can just as well be laughing at it, because it's so fucking absurd. So yeah, enjoy yourselves out there. Don't take it too seriously. Thank you for watching all of this with us. We will be back soon again.
All right.
Best to you all. And with that, I am out.